Your Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. And thank you for making Locked On Canucks your first listen of the day. We're available on all audio platforms, including on YouTube at Locked On Canucks. Make sure to subscribe there. My name is Nick Bondi. As always, is my co-host, Lachlan Irvin. And Lachlan, we actually have some hockey to talk about. Not that we weren't talking about hockey before, but an actual hockey game to talk about.
We sure do. We have a Seattle exhibition game, the very first game in the history of the Kraken.
People always say that. Is it officially the first game if it's a preseason game?
Not really. No, because there's we'll talk about this later a little bit.
Because the Canucks also played. The Canucks also played technically the first game against Vegas in the preseason. I was at that game. I remember that 9-4 loss. Not pretty.
Yeah. It's always I think it's always comes down to technically speaking, it's one of those technically it is their first game because it's the first time they played an organized game. But yeah, it doesn't actually count until you get to a regular season game. That's always the inaugural game. That's always the real official one. That's the one that goes down the score sheet. That's the one when people ask who scored the first goal in franchise history. It's always that. It's always from the regular.
It's always from the regular season game. It's never from the preseason game. See, that's my issue. Is that was not, I don't think, the first Kraken game.
Yeah, this wasn't even a real preseason game either. It was just an exhibition game officially because there was no score sheet or anything else in this game. It was just it wasn't even. I don't think it even counts officially as a preseason game, which is weird in a sense. I don't really see why they make differences between those two. Why there's such discrepancies, but we had we're not going to complain about the fact that we got hockey back.
No, absolutely not. And we do have a lot to get to today, Lachlan. We're going to talk about, obviously, last night's preseason game versus the Kraken, Danila Klimovich, the Klimovich question. And we're going to end the show with our usual sort of segment, training camp battles, about the penalty kill. But let's get started with last night's game versus the Seattle Kraken. And first of all, I don't know, do you want to overreact to this game or not? Let's just get that out there right now. Do you want to overreact to this game or not? Because it was a very strong Seattle Kraken side. Just look at the lineup. It looks like their starting lineup from the regular season versus maybe a 50% strength Canucks side. That was my first reaction was, wow, okay, the Canucks obviously did not get the memo that they're just supposed to roll over and lose this game, kind of do the Seattle Kraken a solid in front of their first. I guess I'm calling it's the first home game for the Kraken, even though it's in Spokane. First home game for the Kraken. So it was going to be tough for the Canucks, but they obviously got off to an early lead. I thought Archer Silovs looked good. The Rathbone Burrows, not Alex Burrows, Kyle Burrows pairing looked pretty good as well. Brock Besser, it was pretty obvious he was the best player or the most skilled player for the Canucks out there. Not surprising given the lineup they were icing. It was mostly an AHL roster, but I think the Canucks did well to hang tough, so to say, in that game.
For sure. The Kraken very much just iced essentially the team that they're going to have opening night. Was Philip Grubauer started, Chris Drieger, who's going to be the backup, most likely cleaned up, had cleanup duty. You had Eberle on the Jaden Schwartz, all etc., all playing in this game. It was a game where they were very much playing with the best possible lineup, or more or less. And the Canucks definitely did not have that going for them. I mean, I don't know how much a difference having, say, one of Pettersson or Hughes in that lineup really makes. Probably not much, but they did very well. They did well given the circumstances and how much of that roster was mostly made up of guys who are going to Abbotsford. And in the first period, they definitely looked like the stronger team at times, just like the way that they were able to capitalize on the opportunities that they were getting. I think Seattle needed some time to kind of figure out the fact that, hey, this is their first game playing as a group. Like, at least in some of the cases of the Canucks, they've played together for a while.
And also, hey, we should be winning this game because there's like 2 NHLers on the Canucks lineup.
Yeah, exactly. You had Jason Dickinson, Brock Besser, and Höglander, and a couple, like maybe a couple other guys, and that was really it.
Pretty much.
Most of the Canucks defense was AHL guys, which was frankly the more I guess not depleted is the wrong word.
Well, mostly AHL guys. I think one of when we'll get to this in a few seconds, but I think one of Hunt, Rathbone, Juolevi is gonna make the opening night roster. And I guess we can ask that question now to you, Lachlan. Who do you think has the inside track after this game? I think I know the answer for me personally is Jack Rathbone. I love his skating. I love his. Sure, he had a couple turnovers. Obviously, he scored the goal. I thought Brad Hunt played well, and I think Olli Juolevi. I think his time is rapidly running out for his time with the Vancouver Canucks. I mean, you just go back to even before this game, Travis Green was asked about his bag skate performance and pretty much said, like, what do you think about it? Well, and said something along the lines of, well, it doesn't help his chances. So you can put 2 together, and I think you can clearly see that Juolevi is not going to be on the opening night roster to start. It's going to be either, I think, Jack Rathbone or Brad Hunt. And the wild thing is, I don't know if any NHL team is going to pick up Olli Juolevi. I said it before on this podcast that the fact that he is a 5th overall pick still has some cachet to maybe a front office or 2 out there. But I mean, it's been 5 years later. We've seen his the images of him pretty much dying on the ice after that bag skate probably do not sit well with a lot of the old school hockey men out there, right? Like, that is not something that probably sits well with a lot of them, and a lot of them probably work in NHL front offices, right? So if Olli Juolevi does not make the opening night roster and he maybe clears waivers, I think that's a very real possibility at this point.
100%. I would say, yeah. I don't think there's any doubt in my mind right now, especially after the way he sprung out of the penalty box and scored on a breakaway. That Jack Rathbone doesn't make this team. I think he's very clearly far and away the best option, and that's not to say disrespect Brad Hunt in any way, who I think is a good depth option as well. Rathbone has obviously the potential to be more than just a depth guy. He has the potential to be like a serious game breaker and an actual like big part of the Canucks going forward. So I think it's pretty clear that he's going to make the team, barring anything unforeseen. Maybe Brad Hunt goes out and scores a hat trick in the next game. Who knows? And that completely shifts things. But yeah, with Juolevi, I mean, there was the one tweet by Maxime Lapierre where he was talking about how he imagined what that situation if John Tortorella was still coaching the Canucks and how that would go.
It would not end up well. I'll say that for Olli Juolevi.
No, it would not have.
I think Travis Green showed a lot of mercy in that scenario to him.
He and even still yet he did not mince words, really. Like, that was a very telling quote from Travis about Juolevi. I think the odds on him passing through waivers and going to Abbotsford are pretty good. I think it's very clear. I don't think he has a long-term future with this team right now. And at the end of the day, I'll say what I did with the last Canucks big top draft pick they had that didn't work out, which is that, and specifically because a lot of people
say his name, Jake Virtanen.
I can say Jake Virtanen's name. You
just don't want to.
I feel it's like the he who must not be named kind of vibe with him these days. But with Jake Virtanen, there was always the people of mind that you can't trade Jake Virtanen because if he goes, he's going to become the next Cam Neely for the Canucks, and that trade where he immediately blossoms on the next team. And the way that I always discuss that with people is the idea that, look, if he's going to turn into this, if that player is going to turn into this incredible talent, and the second he moves to another team, that should actually give you closure, because clearly that was never going to happen in Vancouver. That happens. Not every player turns into the player that they are just based on the fact that they were drafted to the wrong team or started their career in the wrong place. That happens. That happens quite often. It's not a case of this player. It's not necessarily a case of the player's not good, the player's whatever. Sometimes sometimes it's bad luck. It just means that not every situation is perfect for every player. And that's fine. It shouldn't be a situation if Ulevy got claimed and ended up being like somehow 1,000 times better than he is, then it seems like he's going to be right now. I wouldn't look at that as a case of the Canucks giving up too early on a guy. I would look at that as a case of, well, it was never going to happen in Vancouver. At least it happened somewhere else for him.
Yeah, and I think for people who are afraid of, someone like Olli Levy making it work somewhere else, I don't think that's going to happen at this point. Like, it's 5 years later after he was drafted 5th overall. He is what he is. He had some unfortunate injuries in his key development years, and sometimes that happens to prospects, right? Their bodies fail them, and I don't think you can't really blame anyone in that scenario. It's just the luck of the draw, so to say. So the Canucks are going to be playing tonight against the Calgary Flames in Abbotsford. You can expect pretty much the Group B roster from training camp. So, Bo Horvat and company are going to be playing the Flames tonight. But I want to get into this. So I joked on our Twitter page, go follow us at Locked On Canucks. I joked that the Canucks lost 5-3, but also somehow won in the shootout because they played a shootout immediately after their 5-3 loss. What are your thoughts, Lachlan, on this format? You like it? I thought it was kind of funny that they lost and immediately just went to a shootout. I can claim as a Canucks fan, I can claim some sort of moral victory. Like, actually, we won it in the shootout.
We split the series. We
won in the shootout. That came later.
Yeah. It's an MLB. It's a doubleheader, like in MLB. They both count the same. It's totally the same.
Yeah.
They split
the series is tied at 1-1.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, essentially the NHL is doing a new format for the preseason and like exhibition games this year, where they're going to play a shootout after every game, essentially to try and give like the players and goaltenders an opportunity to practice the shootout. It's an interesting idea. I mean, I think for the preseason, who cares? I want more hockey. I don't care. I would like to see, if they're going to do this for every game, I would like to see players get more like creative about it and treat it a little bit more, maybe like an NBA dunk contest, and just kind of go nuts with it. Because again, this is the preseason. Like, if you're fighting for a roster spot, I understand why maybe you're going to go in for I'm just trying for a goal here. I'm going to do my best effort to score.
Hoglander should try the Michigan.
Yeah,
it's not going to count on an actual shootout, but
it won't count.
Why not?
Yeah, go for it. Exactly. Like, or to somebody like trying the between the legs move, try the spinorama, which, by the way, that should not be. That's considered an illegal goal in the shootout. Yeah, it's considered illegal because it's impairing the goalie. Because most of the time it's right in front of the goalie. It's impairing his ability to stop the puck.
What, goalies can't handle someone doing a spin? What? So that's soft.
There was the one goal the Canucks, like Ryan Shannon, when he was a Canuck, he literally slid, like he did the spinorama, literally like sliding right into Nikolai Habibulin and scoring, and then Habibulin like cross-checked him in the back after. I think that's part of the reason why that's gone now. It's the whole puck has to be in forward motion thing. But yeah, I don't mind it. I don't know how you feel about it. I honestly think it's kind of fun just to have the shootout in there. People haven't been at the rink in a long time. Might as well give them a show.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Again, it's preseason. At the end of the day, like, who really cares? Like, if you're getting outraged, I don't think anyone is about a shootout after a preseason game. Like, there's bigger things to worry about in the sports world in general. So I'm not too concerned about it, but I like it. It's fun. Again, it gives me something to hold on to as a Canucks fan. Actually, we won this game in a shootout. So
are you a pro shootout guy, or are you like in general, or are you like more? I
don't mind a shootout. I do not mind a shootout to end a hockey game. I think the easiest way to fix all this is you make a regulation win worth more than a shootout win. That's the issue. You make 3 points
Olympic
for a regulation
point
win,
table.
2 points for an overtime shootout win. And then, the loser point, keep the loser point in there. I know why the NHL doesn't want to do it, because if you do 3 points for a regulation win, you don't have that kind of fake parity that you have at the end of an NHL season where all these teams are bunched together, right? You'll have some serious separation, by the All-Star break and later, and you won't have the same playoff push. So I understand why they don't want to do it, but that's the easiest way to fix it, right? It's just 3 points for a regulation win. So we're about to just get into talking about Danila Klimovich, the hot rookie for the Vancouver Canucks. That actually had a pretty good game last night. But first, I want to talk to you guys about DirecTV. Does this sound familiar? You've got one device that lets you catch the game live, another that lets you stream your favorite shows. You're watching sports highlights on your phone, and you've got your neighbor's best friend's login for the good stuff. Well, I want to talk to you about a simple way to get all that entertainment you love without the hassle, and a great way to finally get your TV together. It's called DirecTV Stream, and it brings your live TV and on-demand favorites together like never before, so you can watch your favorite sports, movies, and shows all in one place. That means no juggling remotes and no need to buy another device ever again. The best part, there's no annual contract. So get rid of the clutter and the confusion and get your TV together with DirecTV Stream. You can learn more at directtv.com. That's directtv.com. Compatible devices required. Content varies by package. Okay, so Danila Klimovich. He actually had a good game last night against the Seattle Kraken. He got some power play time. It seems like the debate is whether he should end up in the AHL or the QMJHL to start the season. As much as I love to see him on the NHL team, I think it's best for his development and probably for the Canucks to keep him out of the NHL for a bit, let him get some North American season, whether it's in junior or the AHL. So Lachlan, AHL or QMJHL for Danila Klimovich, which is better?
Well, I think right now it's a little tough to say simply just because of the fact that, we've only seen him for one game, but like overall, like if you ask Danila Klimovich where he wants to be, he'll say the NHL, and he's kind of showing he can do a pretty good job. Like he honestly looked, in my opinion, pretty comfortable playing against an NHL team. There are a couple of plays he made that looked very much like this is a guy who knows what he's doing. Like there was the one play, I believe, like late in the third period where he was out there after a long shift, but he had the heads up thought to just throw the puck kind of quickly at Chris Driedger, and it caught him by surprise, got a good rebound out of it.
He has an NHL level shot, I think, at this point. Like not even from last night's game, just from the training camp action. He has a NHL ready shot, I would say. But I tweeted this out. He has the aim of a stormtrooper, which means he has no aim whatsoever. It's just splattering all over the place. That's the problem with Danila Klimovich, as he has the shot velocity, he doesn't have the aim at this point. So where do you learn to aim better, AHL or QMJHL? I'm not claiming to be a prospect expert, far from it, but it's gonna. I think I think the whole point of bringing your AHL team closer is for situations like this, for a more hands-on development with prospects. So I say put him in the AHL. Why not get him accustomed to and North American hockey, like a more pro league, and kind of the sink or swim mentality.
Yeah, I mean, I've been very much on the thought process for a while now that just send him to the Q, because I think because I thought with Klimovich, he's a younger guy, he's probably going to get a lot more ice time, a lot more opportunities to really rack up some points in the Q, versus say an Abbotsford team that's already seems to be gearing itself up to try and be like a Calder Cup contender. He's probably not going to get nearly as many minutes. He's probably going to end up, being a healthy scratch it quite a few times in the early going because he's not a veteran. So put him in a situation where he's going to get as much ice time as humanly possible for him. But right now, the way he's been playing, it is kind of looking more and more like if you did put him in the AHL, he might be playing regularly, like at least maybe like second line, maybe third.
Yeah. Well, the Canucks will make sure of it with the AHL team in Abbotsford. That's the whole point of bringing it to Abbotsford, right? You have a more hands-on approach in your development. So you bring him in the AHL, you put him in the AHL, you can pick and choose, what line, if he plays on the power play, all that good stuff.
Yeah, it honestly depends on how comfortable they are with their coaching, with the new coaching staff that they have. I mean, they still have Trent Cull. They have a couple holdovers from Utica, but they hired some new people in. They brought a few new coaches in, and if they have the confidence in that group that they do, Potentially, yeah. Why not give him a shot? Why not give the 18-year-old a shot at the AHL and see how it goes for him? It's not entirely out of the realm of possibility that, say, maybe you look like maybe early in the season. I don't know exactly how the rules work, but I don't see if there's a scenario like they decide, okay, maybe this isn't a good spot to put him in the AHL so quickly. We'll put him in the queue. We'll send him to the queue. I don't know if you can do that mid-season, but that's might be in the cards essentially too, if possible. So, might as well give him the opportunity to work hands-on with your coaching staff, especially because there's going to be a lot of communication between the NHL and AHL groups. Give him the opportunity to kind of work on a few things against stiffer pro competition that he might be able to succeed at pretty quickly.
Yeah, well, I think if you put him in one spot, you want him to stay there the entire season. You don't want him flip-flopping around different leagues. But I say I agree with everything you just said right there. It doesn't make for a good podcasting, but you make some good points there.
It also doesn't make for good podcasting if we're just fighting the whole time either. So, you got to take a little bit of both. Column A, column B.
Yeah, I guess so. I subscribe to the Will Ferrell philosophy. It's provocative. It gets the people going. But you know what? I think the AHL is the best place for him to start the season. You're close again. You're close by in Abbotsford. You can pick and choose your spots. But I would have liked to see Danila Klimovich score like 2 points a game in the QMJHL. I would have loved to see those highlights of him just torching QMJHL goalies, like scoring 2 goals and having like 4 assists in a 8-6 game against the Quebec Ramparts or whatever. That would have been fun.
Yeah,
and you know what? Fun. That could still happen. We don't know what the plan is for Danila Klimovich in the Canucks' eyes.
Yeah, he's a very interesting prospect in the sense of like there seems to be an idea of what he can be, but it's possible that he gets farther. Like there's possible that he gets a lot farther. He does seem to be a little bit of a kind of a just kind of this interesting question mark of what potential he has, and being a pretty big steal for where he was drafted. So I'm very interested to see what the Canucks do, especially with this new AHL system. Like if you look back on Utica's history, on their history with the Comets, honestly, not a lot of players from that group outside of goaltenders have really graduated from that program to become like great players. They have a few of them, like Troy Stetcher was very good. He came up through that. You look at, say, maybe like I don't know how much time Ben Hutton spent in Utica, but those are like the success stories for them at that level in those years. Outside of your goaltenders, Jacob Markstrom and Thatcher Demko, who both did very, very well. I'm very hopeful with this new format for them that it will lead to a lot more graduates from the AHL, not just being guys who play depth roles, but actually coming up to do big things and actually be a huge part of the Canucks in the long-term future. And you hope that's kind of the situation with Klimovich if they decide to go that route, obviously.
Yeah, and one thing Danila Klimovich will not be playing on is the penalty kill, which we're going to get to in just a moment. But first, I want to talk to you about Built Bar. Do you know that Built Bar has so many delicious flavors? There's truly something for everyone. When you talk to a Built Bar fan, they're definitely passionate about their flavors. They have so many great flavors. They have coconut, cherry barcia, mint brownie. They have the classic flavors such as orange, cookies and cream, strawberry. I'm a classic flavor guy. I like the orange. And if you haven't tried all the flavors, guess what? You can get a mix box where you'll get 2 of each of the 9 flavors. And not only are Built Bar flavors the best tasting, but they're healthy. They're very good for you. 17 to 18 grams of protein, only 4 to 5 grams of sugar, 132, about 180 calories in each bar. They're all amazing flavors. They're all tasty, and they're all very, very good for you. Go to built.com and use the promo code LOCK15, and you'll get 15% off your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off builtbar.com. Okay, so the penalty kill. We've been ending our shows with a few training camp battles for each episode of Locked On Canucks, your first listen to of the day. I think for the penalty kill, we got some clues last night, Lachlan, into the Canucks' plans for the penalty kill. You had Phil Giuseppe, fellow Italian. I'm always have time for that, and Matthew Highmore as the forwards for the penalty kill. So I think those guys have an inside track to make the team regardless. And Luke Schenn and our best friend, who we were just praising earlier, Olio Levy, spent some time on the penalty kill. That might be Olio Levy's in reality saving grace, as he does kill penalties. That might be his only plus side in if when the Canucks are considering who to keep on that left side, right? Is Levy kills penalties. You saw Luke Schenn out there, but I think Phil Giuseppe and Matthew Highmore, like without Brandon Sutter to start the season, who obviously is a big fan of the penalty kill, and the Canucks love him on the penalty kill. I think Phil Giuseppe has an inside track to make that fourth line because he does kill penalties, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think with Di Giuseppe, yeah, it's very much about how much of a specialist can you be, especially if you're going to make the team right now. The Canucks, what they want, are going to be looking for, and the coaching staff are looking for, is specialists. And essentially, he didn't
just play on the penalty kill last night because he needs someone. He was pretty good at it. I thought he had a couple nice clearances at the line on the penalty kill at a couple of points.
Yeah, he looked very good. He looked like, I'm sure this, if we went and looked at his time with the Rangers and the Hurricanes before this, I'm sure he's probably played a lot of PK before this, because it looked like a role he was
former saying on my podcast, Honest Podcast. I have no idea if Phil Giuseppe has played penalty kill before, but it looked like last night he has some experience, so that's good.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't a case where this was a guy out there like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I've never done this before. He's clearly got that mentality where this is a role he's definitely played before. And yeah, that fourth line is most nights is probably going to also kind of be doing pulling double duty as the PK. And the way that the Canucks PK has been over the last few years, you really, really are going to put like bonus marks on for besides players for names if they're able to kill good penalties, because they really struggled in that department last year. I think Di Giuseppe has a good opportunity. I think Highmore might be an interesting option for, say, like a PK2 if you're throwing him on, say, like the right wing.
Of course, it helps him make the team as well. Like they want to give him a chance to make the team after the Gaudette thing. If you can kill penalties, good for him.
Yeah. What's interesting is going to be who centers them right now, because I think both Di Giuseppe and Highmore are natural wingers. So I don't know who would necessarily be centering them in that case. I mean, obviously the PK, you're playing 4-on-4, but you got to have a centerman out there. I guess without Sutter, you're probably bringing up somebody. It's probably it might be a case of Justin Dowling probably coming in. I don't know what his history is with special teams. But that's probably, I imagine they'll probably want to go in the more like the veteran route. I don't know how your boy Nick Patan is on PK. He doesn't. I think he's more of a scorer, I imagine.
Yeah,
but
well, that's the problem with Nick Patan is I have to be honest. He didn't do much last night. That's the problem.
And he's not. And I don't think you would consider him a specialist either. Like, he's very much more of an offensive guy. Yeah, exactly. So it maybe, I don't know. Maybe Sheldon Dries comes out with a good training camp. Maybe, I don't know. Right now, it's really just a matter of, I think in both of those cases, you could see a potential, where Di Giuseppe might be the guy that gets a little bit of the edge right now, because he's looked pretty good, as much as Highmore, as important as it is for Highmore to succeed with Vancouver. But honestly, right now, there's a little bit of room for both of them. I think I'd like to see how Justin Dowling does he's playing Calgary tonight. I think he's going to be in the Calgary game. So I'm interested to see how that goes, because that right now, you might be looking at that as not only as your penalty kill, but as your fourth line for the start of the year.
Yeah, and for Luke Schenn, again, we still don't know the status of Travis Hamonic. Rumors out there that he doesn't want to be vaccinated. So if he misses some time, then Luke Schenn has an inside track, I think, for that right side D, because again, he showed last night he can kill penalties, right?
I mean, honestly, it seems like they're planning for a team without Travis Hamonic right now. It very much seems,
which is unfortunate, because they're paying him $3 million a year. But we can get to that point when we can start ripping.
We'll cross that bridge when we get to it. Yeah, exactly. With again, like we talked about this in the last episode, how I'm a huge fan of the idea of Luke Schenn playing with Jack Rathbone, getting opportunity. Them as a pairing, I think, would be very good. And I think a couple other people actually mentioned that last night, and we're talking about that at points yesterday. Schenn is not only is a specialist in the being able to nurture a young defenseman quota, but also being able to kill penalties. He's aggressive on the puck carrier. He's also responsible in his own end. I think he's the closest thing the Canucks have to a Chris Tanev replacement right now. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with Tucker Poolman's Tucker Poolman's resume. But right now, at the very least, if there's a guy on this team who's a defensive specialist, Luke Schenn is that guy. And I think right now you have to give him every opportunity to play, because they don't really have a good second option right now, I think, outside of him. So I think Schenn very much is he's as close to a lock as you can get as say like a fifth or sixth defenseman right now.
Yeah, you put him in a shelter defensive role, put him on keep him as a main penalty killer, and I think that's the ideal role for someone like Luke Schenn. I mean, you can also, I think, play with a guy like a Tyler Myers, right? Like, it's pretty wild that $6 million defenseman has to be babysitted defensively, but that's kind of how Tyler Myers' resume has been with the Vancouver Canucks. And Luke Schenn, he's not going to do much with the puck, so if he can babysit him and give the puck to Tyler Myers, and hey. Tyler Myers, he's good with the puck on his stick, I think, for a defenseman. I think that's his strong suit. So maybe he plays 5-on-5 with Tyler Myers, babysits him for a bit, and plays penalty kill minutes. I think that's the ideal role for a guy like Luke Schenn. And the Canucks are playing tonight against the Calgary Flames in Abbotsford, with that really high priced Canucks preseason game that everyone seems to be getting upset over. So,
are you going? Are you?
I will not be going. I will not be going to Abbotsford tonight. I will be watching it from the comfort of my own home. So, I'm not paying $75 for a preseason game. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's just how the cards for me.
Yeah, apparently most people are not, because that is if anyone has not looked at Ticketmaster and the tickets available, they have the whole like live map of all the available seats. There's a lot available.
There's a few tickets
not
left.
Be
maybe just decrease the prices a bit for anyone listening from the Vancouver Canucks. Maybe like $50. Maybe $50 I would have considered it, or even less. Maybe $40 I would have considered it. Because I live in North Burnaby. If I'm paying $40 for a ticket to an Abbotsford game, I also have to consider the time spending driving out there and back. So
rush hour, right in the middle of rush hour to get out there, probably, because it's like, if it's a 7:00 puck drop, I think tonight, you're leaving about your house at probably like around 5, like, or 4:30. I don't know how far. I actually have never drove to Abbotsford before, so I actually don't know how far it is. But driving from, I did a lot of Burnaby to Langley drives in the past, which were usually actually pretty okay. Like, even like 40 minutes was decent. So it's a case of they definitely, I think, overestimated how many people wanted to go see preseason hockey. Or maybe this just goes all the way back to Abbotsford's dislike of the Heat when they were playing out of that building. Maybe they just don't like Calgary that much. We shall see. At least the tickets for the actual AHL team are much more reasonable from what I've seen. I think it's like just $25 a person. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, and that has it for another episode of Locked On Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks again for making Locked On Canucks your first listen every day, and we will be back with you tomorrow with, of course, a quick recap of the Canucks preseason game against the Calgary Flames from Abbotsford, the first preseason game for the Vancouver Canucks in BC in quite a long time. And make sure your second listen of the day is Locked On Bets. Betting on hockey doesn't have to be a guessing game if you listen to the new Locked On Bets podcast, hosted by your boy Q and handicapping expert Lee Sterling. Get daily picks, blowout specials, the wrong team favorite picks, and Lee Sterling's Lock of the Day. Follow the Locked On Bets podcast, brought to you by BetOnline AG, wherever you get podcasts. See you tomorrow.